In this review session, what I'm going to try and do is help you pick up where we left off in terms of talking about the changes wrought by the Second Industrial Revolution. I'm going to try and make it a bit clearer by taking you through some of the technological developments of this time period, which underscore the changes wrought by the Second Industrial Revolution. So I want to begin with electricity. Now, electricity helped further the Industrial Revolution, and I think it's best to help see electricity as an acceleration, if you will, of the trends of the Industrial Revolution generally, because in the past we talked about how factories were unshackled from nature, that wherever coal could be transported, you could put a factory. Well, now with electricity, you could now put a factory wherever you could get an electric current. This is a massive transformative change of society. A good example might be something like Google or any number of others trying to build fiber optic networks in Tennessee or elsewhere. The thought process being, if we can get electricity and fast internet anywhere in the country, well, we can create Silicon Valley wherever we put it. So again, that's sort of that same process. Now that you can unshackle yourself from coal, now electricity helps you to just promote industry and develop industry wherever you can get a current. But more than that, the electricity also changed the factory itself. Consider electric lighting. We talked about the Industrial Revolution and how workers felt as though they were on the clock. Well, what happens when you have electric lighting? Well, you really do undo any connection to nature, don't you? Now you could have workers working around the clock. The clock actually becomes longer and more powerful because now night doesn't dictate that work ends. You could now have late shifts, third shifts, fourth shifts. You could now have workers working around the clock because now you were unshackled from nature. Lighting also becomes sort of the symbol of the future. Europeans become obsessed with huge public exhibitions where they showcase the power of lighting. Indeed, a lot of these were both sort of PR and public service announcements because so many people early on were fearful of what electricity might do. A lot of these events were held to try and convince people that, no, if you bring electricity into your home, you're not all going to die. And it's interesting in terms of looking at early lighting, for example. A lot of early lights look like lamps, look like gas-fed lamps for this reason. They're trying to make people become more comfortable with the technology. The best sort of analogy to think of this is when personal computing really took off. What was the format of the operating system? It was the desktop. Why? Well, the desktop reminds people of a desk. They know what windows are. They know what files are. They know what a file cabinet is. All of that was an attempt to, like this early lighting, help you become comfortable with new technology. But electricity started to change life in a much more profound way than just the factory and being on the clock. The growth of electricity also enabled the development of many more items, many more goods, and specifically it launched the appliance industry. Consider everything you think of today as an appliance: fans, vacuums, toasters. Nearly all of them are powered by electricity. And so what you see is the power of electricity penetrating the home and transforming daily tasks, and you get even the development of whole new industries such as Sears Roebuck and others, whose existence is dependent upon selling and shipping to you as many of these appliances as they can get in your hands. So what you should see in this is electricity is really having a profound transformative effect even on daily life. You getting up and starting up your electric toaster, you're becoming a part of the Second Industrial Revolution even if you don't think that much about it. Another example of change at this time is communication, because electricity allows the world to shrink and an increase in the speed of communication through the telegraph. And I have a news report about the sinking of the Titanic to try and underscore this point, because one author has alleged that the sinking of the Titanic was the world's first worldwide event, meaning that because of the speed of communications, everyone could, within a small frame of time, or a relatively small frame of time, know where they were when they heard about the sinking of the Titanic. It became sort of the first event where you could say, where were you when you heard? That to us seems normal. Where were you when John F. Kennedy was assassinated? Where were you when the Cubs won the World Series? All the rest of these things. That only works, that statement can only be said if you're in an era of fast or instantaneous communication. And so you're also getting a transformation in the speed and scale of communication. But to build from electricity, what happens in the second industrial revolution? Well, you get the shift from iron to steel. Now, like iron in the first industrial revolution, steel was not foreign. Steel was something that was known before. But during the second industrial revolution, you get changes, specifically the Bessemer process, that allow you to make steel much more efficiently and more cheaply. And steel is important because it gives you a whole new building material that is stronger and allows you to make any new types of buildings. A good example of this is the Eiffel Tower, or if you've ever been to some of the more ornate and older railway stations of Europe. A lot of them are built with steel and glass, and it's an example of what you can do with this new building material. And as we talked about in our last lecture, steel also starts to transform warfare. This enables you to have steamships, armored steamships, machine guns, increases in the capabilities and ordnance power of artillery. And so what you're getting is changes in military weaponry, you're getting changes in architecture, you're getting changes in the types of goods you're able to produce, the larger factories, bigger machines, all of this because you've developed a new method for mass producing steel. Lastly, electricity also enabled the development of a chemical industry. Laboratories, all the rest of these were dependent upon electrical power, and so it goes hand in hand with the development of the chemical industry. And indeed, if you trace through most of the major chemical companies that we think of today, Bausch & Lomb, BASF, Bayer, Dow Chemical, they're all getting their start during this time period. They're beneficiaries of this electrical production. And indeed, in terms of thinking about the ramifications of the chemical industry, you can even see, similar to the first industrial revolution, how the second industrial revolution brings about a change in transportation. And that's because chemicals are critical for the next huge transportation innovation, namely the automobile. Carl Benz patents this, his gasoline-driven Motorwagen, and this is a museum featuring it. Cars have improved over time. But again, what you should see in this is the massive series of changes that the second industrial revolution is producing. It's starting to transform life, it's transforming the factory, it's transforming your perceptions of time, it's transforming your experience of travel. Again, what you should see in this is just as much as the first industrial revolution was transformative, so was the second industrial revolution. And indeed, what you're seeing here is an acceleration of those same processes, an acceleration of the changes in life, in habits, and in attitudes. And so hopefully what this gives you is a better appreciation or understanding for why the second industrial revolution transforms Western civilization the way it does.